I didn't hear the slap, but I heard the silence that followed. You know, the kind that fills a room like fog after a fire. The kind that chokes you. That tells you something terrible has just happened even if no one dares to speak of it. My daughter, Maya, was sitting on the floor, her tiny body hunched over, tears gathering in her big brown eyes, and she was clutching her arm like it hurt to even breathe. I dropped the grocery bag right there in the hallway. I rushed to her, heart pounding in my ears. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to, because my in-laws were already standing there, arms crossed, frowning at her like she'd just broken something precious. She must have said something to provoke him, my mother-in-law muttered. My father-in-law nodded, not even looking at Maya. She's always been sensitive. It's just a bruise. And then my sister-in-law, perfect hair, perfect nails, perfect voice, said the thing that made my soul burn. She needs to apologize to him. He's a boy. He probably didn't even know his strength. You know how boys play rough. I turned to look at the him they were all defending. Daniel, her cousin, a 9-year-old with a twisted smirk still plastered on his face. He wasn't sorry, not even close. I asked Maya gently, "Sweetheart, what happened?" She hesitated, glanced at the adults, then whispered, "He pushed me because I said it was my turn with the game. He didn't want to share." She barely got the words out before my in-laws jumped in. "Well, boys don't like being bossed around," my father-in-law said. "She needs to learn to be more agreeable," his wife added. And then they did it. They made her say sorry. To him. My baby girl, holding her arm, lips trembling, forced to say sorry to the boy who hit her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout, "What is wrong with you?" But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. I smiled so big it scared them. I picked Maya up, held her tight, and said nothing. We left, without a word. Just silence again. But this time it was the silence before the storm, because 2 days later they got a call that changed everything. I drove home in silence that day. Maya sat in the back seat, quietly sniffing. I kept glancing at her through the mirror. Her little fingers still clutched her arm, even though she tried to pretend it didn't hurt anymore. She didn't ask why we left. She didn't say anything at all. But when we got home and I gently rolled up her sleeved check, I saw the bruise. Dark, purple, angry. It stretched across her forearm like a mark of shame, like something meant to silence her. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not violently, but with the quiet fury of a mother who's had enough. For years I had tried to be the peacekeeper, the bridge between my husband and his family, the quiet one, the one who bit her tongue when they commented on my cooking, or when they told me Maya needed to act more ladylike, or when they rolled their eyes every time I spoke about my work like it didn't matter. But hurting my daughter, making her apologize to a boy who hurt her, that was the last straw. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd always play nice. They had no idea who I truly was. But they were about to find out. That night, after Maya went to sleep with an ice pack on her arm, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. My fingers didn't shake. They typed with the calm precision of a woman with purpose. I wasn't going to scream, or fight, or demand apologies they'd never mean. No, I was going to show them. I was going to take everything they valued, without ever raising my voice. You see, what my in-laws never bothered to understand was what I did for a living. I was a software consultant, yes. But more than that, I was a digital strategist. I helped businesses grow. I understood social media, marketing, PR, and I knew secrets. Their secrets? Every passive-aggressive email, every photo they posted, every shady family business activity they bragged about during dinners while sipping wine. I kept mental notes. Not because I planned to use them, but because I had a sharp memory and sharper instincts. But now? Now I was going to put all of it to use. The next morning I filed a formal report to the school board. Not just about Daniel hitting Maya, but about past complaints from other kids that had been ignored. I backed it up with photos. I had Maya's arm documented at the clinic we visited that night. And I attached screenshots from group chats where Daniel had mocked other kids, something his parents laughed off as boys being boys. Then I made an anonymous post on a local parenting forum. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I just told the story how a little girl was forced to apologize to her abuser while her elders stood by. It caught fire. People messaged me, other parents. Some who knew the family. Some who had warnings of their own. I let the storm build. And then 2 days later, they got the call. The call that changed everything. I was pouring orange juice when my phone buzzed. A message from my husband. "What did you do?" I smiled. I didn't reply. Instead, I watched the chaos unfold from a distance. Daniel was suspended from school indefinitely. His parents were called in for a formal investigation. Their family business account on social media began losing followers fast. People stopped booking with them. Old customers started sharing stories. Receipts? Screenshots? The perfect image they built? Cracked, then crumbled. All because they couldn't show basic human decency to a child. Because they chose to protect their pride instead of their blood. And I never raised my voice, never pointed a public finger. I let the truth do all the talking. Later that week, they came to our door. All 3 of them. Faces pale, eyes tired. My husband stood by the window, hesitant. He still didn't know the full extent of what I'd done. He didn't need to. "I just want to talk," my sister-in-law said. Her voice was cracked. No lipstick this time. No perfection. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. "She's just a child," she whispered. "She didn't deserve this." "No," I said calmly. "She didn't. But neither did mine." She looked away. "Is there anything we can do to fix this?" I smiled. "No, but maybe now you'll think twice before teaching a little girl that her pain doesn't matter just because a boy caused it." And with that, I turned around, walked back in, and closed the door. I closed the door softly, but the finality in that moment echoed louder than any scream. I turned and leaned against it, letting the silence wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. My husband was still standing by the window. His face was a mix of confusion, guilt, and something else, fear, maybe. He had grown up in that house, in that family. He was taught to stay quiet, to not challenge the elders, to accept things as they were. But I wasn't raised like that. And I wasn't raising Maya like that either. He finally spoke. "Did you really do all that?" I didn't answer right away. I walked past him and picked up Maya's sketchbook from the table. She had drawn a picture. Her and me, holding hands. A big heart between us. I held it up. "This is the only thing that matters to me." He swallowed. Sat down heavily. I should have said something that day. I just froze. I nodded. "You're not the one I'm angry at, but you need to decide something, because I won't ever let anyone silence her again." The days that followed were a strange mix of peace and tension. Peace in our little home, tension outside it. My in-laws called again. Texts, voicemails. They even tried to email me through fake accounts, trying to clear their names on the parenting forums. But it was too late. People had seen through the mask. The community had already formed its own opinion. Not based on gossip, but on truth, on what was right. They weren't canceled, but they were exposed, which in their world was worse. One evening, as Maya and I baked cookies together, she looked up and asked, "Mama, why did they make me say sorry when I didn't do anything wrong?" I froze for a second. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I had too many. I knelt beside her, wiped a bit of flour off her nose, and said, because sometimes people don't want to believe the truth when it makes them uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean you stop telling it. She nodded slowly. But you believed me. Always, I said. Always. She smiled. And I knew right then that something had shifted in her too. She wasn't just healing. She was learning to stand tall, to recognize her worth. And that meant more to me than any revenge ever could. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from my father-in-law. Handwritten, neat, precise. We didn't see it. We didn't want to. And for that, we failed you. We failed Maya. We thought we were protecting the family. We thought we were protecting the family, but what is a family if it turns its back on its children? But what is a family if it turns its back on its children? There was no apology. Not really, but there was something close. Acknowledgement. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about clarity. It was about setting boundaries so sharp they couldn't be crossed again. They didn't ask to visit Maya again. And I didn't offer. Maybe someday. Maybe if they truly change. But not now. Because healing takes time. And trust takes even longer. One night, I sat down and wrote Maya a letter. A letter I'll give her when she's older. When she's grown enough to understand everything that happened. I told her the whole truth. Not just about that day, but about what I felt, what I did, and why. I told her that being strong doesn't always mean fighting loud. Sometimes it means walking away with grace and letting the truth roar louder than any argument. I told her that her voice matters, even when others try to muffle it. Especially then. I told her that being a girl isn't a weakness, and that no one, boy, man, or elder, has the right to hurt her without consequence. And most importantly, I told her I'd always believe her, even when no one else does. The takeaway revenge doesn't always come with broken glass and slamming doors. Sometimes it comes with silence, with strategy, with standing your ground so firmly that those who try to push you over fall by their own weight. I didn't need to scream, didn't need to shout. I just needed to act. And in doing so, I gave my daughter something far more powerful than justice. I gave her an example. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever stayed quiet when you should have spoken up only to find strength later in silence and truth? Or maybe someone hurt someone you love and you took your power back in your own quiet, beautiful way? Tell me your story, because someone out there needs to hear it. And they need to know they're not alone.